Welcome to Storytime with Herbal Roots zine. I'm Kristine Brown, and today I'm going to read to you the story from issue number 83, A Campaign for Cacao. You may know cacao from its more popular form, chocolate. But take away all the additives and you have cacao. Now, cacao comes in many forms, from the whole seeds to nibs, and even powder and as a butter. Cacao is nutritious. It lifts the mood, it inhibits cavities, and it supports good heart health. That's just a few things that cacao can be used for. So today's story is The Discovery of Cacao. A long, long time ago, life was much different than it is now. All of our modern technology didn't exist. In fact, televisions and radios and even electricity were unknown. Homes were simpler too, built from the materials that were local. Those who lived in the desert built their homes from adobe brick. Those who lived in the forests used wood. Those who lived in rocky areas often had homes built from the rock. Our story today takes us down to Central America in the times of the Mayans. If you locate Central America on a map, you will see that it's pretty close to the equator. Because of this, the weather was, and still is, mild year-round, and the days didn't lengthen or shorten as they do up here in North America. To this benefit, the forests were tropical and food was always present. Back in those days, children often had tasks to assist the adults in daily living. They learned the paths of the forests and often went into them to play, gather water from the streams, and forage food that grew abundantly. Mothers often sent their children into the forest to bring home food and medicine for their use. Itzel was one such child. She was named Itzel after the goddess of medicine, Ixel. Her own mother was a medicine woman and so named her child to bring honor and prosperity to her family tradition of healing. Itzel was a curious little girl who loved all the plants and the animals of the forest. She was thrilled whenever her mother sent her into the forest to forage and did so without hesitation. One day, her mother called to her, "Itzel, I need you to go into the forest and find us some food." Itzel noticed her mother seemed tired, but she was eager to be on her way. She grabbed her gathering basket and, hugging her mother, was on her way out the door before her mother could even give suggestions as to what to collect. Itzel wandered into the forest by her regular path. After a bit, she heard a rustling in the bushes, and curious, she left the path to see what was making the commotion. The creature realized it was being followed, took off with Itzel fast at its heels. After a bit, Itzel lost the trail of the mysterious creature, and looking around, she realized she was lost. Hot and tired, she searched around for a source of food and water. She could find neither, and she began to get worried. Presently, she noticed a monkey up in the tree watching her. It sat and cupped a curious fruit in his hands, one that she had never seen before. While she watched, he bit into the fruit, spit out the rind, and began eating the inner pieces. Itzel looked around, trying to find the fruit he was eating. She noticed a funny little tree with the fruit sticking out all over it a few paces away. Carefully, she made her way to it. Reaching up, she plucked a fruit from the tree and smashed it open on a rock. She picked out a bit of the pulp and put it in her mouth. A smile broke out on her face as she tasted the sweetness from the pulp. Eagerly, she ate the pulp from the fruit, spitting out the seeds. After she had gotten her fill, she began to fill her basket with the fruits. Once she had filled it, she looked around, trying to determine how to get home. Sad and worried, she sat down and began to cry. After a few minutes, she felt a hand upon her shoulder. Looking up, she saw the monkey next to her, patting her shoulder. When she looked at him, he reached out and took her hand, tugging at her. Standing, Itzel let the monkey lead her along. Soon, she was back on familiar ground and made her way back home. She showed her mother the pods she had found and told her the tale of the monkey who had led her back to the trail. Eager to feed her family, Itzel's mother broke open all the pods. The pile of pulp and the seeds sat on a mat, and the family ate until they had their fill. The remainder of the pulp and seeds sat in the hot hut and began to ferment. Itzel's mother stirred the pile, hoping to preserve the fruits for another meal, but after a day, she noticed the pile was hot and the pulp seemed to be cooking down. It no longer tasted good, so she carried the mat outside and left it to sit in the sun. Itzel went out and stirred the pile, looking for something left to eat, but found nothing. She picked up the dried pile of seeds and pulp and dumped them into the coals, hoping they would add fuel to the fire. Instead, the coals seemed to go out. The next morning, Itzel's little brother plucked a seed from the ashes and started to eat it. Curious, Itzel and her mother tried the seeds too, and noticed they had an interesting taste to them. Being low on food again, Itzel's mother decided to grind the seeds to add to water and make a drink for them. The family enjoyed it so much they began sharing the drink with their friends. Over time, they learned to perfect the process of preparing the seeds to make their special drink. Itzel called the fruit cacao because the monkey called out, "Cacao, cacao," to her when she had been lost. The name stuck, and everyone in the village called it the same. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you'd like to learn more about cacao, you can find the Cacao Ebook in my shop, and I'll put the link in the description below. Thanks for visiting Herbal Roots zine for Storytime, and I'll see you next time.